News update for Lumo Energy. I mean, out of the news update for Lumo Energy, let's go to this.
On NAB AFL Trade Radio, the list manager for NAB. Back in business in moments that matter.
Okay, Carlton Football Club is now the focus of Terry Wallace's list management. Where are they at, Terry? The Blues?
Oh, well, okay, 16th this year, 16 wins, 78%. 14th last year, 7 wins, 79%. So the Blues finished 2 spots lower with 1 win less and didn't improve their percentage, which I always speak about, that percentage factor. But the mood of the club couldn't really be better. I think most people believe that their direction is okay. With 5 Rising Star nominations, the most of any side in the AFL, and quite comfortably, and some other good kids in the squad, the future does look brighter than it has been in recent years. So there's a lot of excitement surrounding players such as Charlie Curnow, obviously Patrick Cripps, who's been there for quite a few years now, Sam Petreski-Seaton, just to name a few. Since the combination of Brendan Bolton as the coach and Steve Silvani as the list manager has come together, most Carlton supporters believe they're in pretty capable hands, and I certainly agree with that factor as well. They do need to start making some ground sometime soon, just really, because the love fest won't last forever. It never ever does, and people are quite comfortable that Sauce is back there doing the role, bringing in the right players. Brendan, has been very engaging with the supporter base, and that's a really good attitude and approach, but they really need to get things right. Plus, the bulk of their midfield has only 2 to 4 years at the top of their game left, and you're talking about Murphy, Gibbs if he stays, and we'll speak about that in a minute, Cruz, guys like that. Can they get a combination of those guys still being there while those other guys sort of come up? That's a little bit of a question. So it's getting the balance right between the ones coming through and the ones who are already there, established, high up in your best and fairest.
Yep. Team structure-wise, Terry, the Blues?
Look, I think the club has done a good job of building a young spine. When I have a look at the backs, it's Callum Marchbank, 20, Jacob Wiedering, 19, Lockie Plowman, 23, Harrison McCready, 19. Plus they've reinvigorated, obviously, Liam Jones. So that sort of looks pretty good. The young defenders will have some ups and downs along the way, but that does look pretty healthy for the future. When I have a look at the key forwards, they've got cover down there, but the forward line's a bit lighter on for absolute high-end key position talent. Charlie Curnow, we know, is an absolute beauty. They'll want to play him key forward, but through the middle of the ground at times as well. I've only seen glimpses at this stage of Harry Mackay at the level. I mean, he's been going okay at the next level. He looks a very athletic type that we expect can really continue to rise and come on. And then you have Pat Kerr, who's progressing well at VFL level as well. So they've got them there, but they really haven't been seen necessarily high-ended at senior level very much yet. So they could probably do with one more, but that's not their absolute priority in my opinion. I think that they'll go with what they've got when you consider that they have the Silvani, who plays third tall down that end as well, and another.
And he's deceptively tall, isn't he?
Yeah, and another Silvani on the way in the next couple of years. So I think that they've got other priorities that really need bolstering more than that. The club is needing midfield strength to me. With Murphy at 30, Gibbs at 28, and still some sort of question mark on whether he's going to be there. They simply need both depth and class to have the quality to compete with the finals teams. Okay, they brought in, or trying to bring in, Matt Kennedy. Petreski-Seaton's there, Fisher's there, Cunningham's there. So they're working on it. It was always get the spine right first and then work on the midfield. Got no problem with the order of that.
Yep.
Okay, get the big blokes in and then sort of try to adding depth to the middle of the ground. So the interesting thing will be now, do they go back to GWS for any more after Kennedy? It's looking very, very doubtful that will be the case. Or do they look elsewhere for targets? Because we know that the couple that we thought they might be looking at. Devon Smith, not likely to go there. Tommy Rockcliffe, not likely to go there. Adam Sard, not likely to go there. So it'll be interesting just to sort of see where they fit from there.
You mentioned already, before we get to this headline part of the list management, Terry, some of their needs. But what else do you identify there?
Yeah, well, it is number one priority, inside and outside class. So both lots of midfielders, they still need more of. So that's, to me, is their absolute priority.
Yep.
If in the perfect world you could bring in another key forward, but I think they've got enough there for the future to work with. So this one is an absolute priority of those midfielders for the future.
And again, in getting to this point of this list management of the Blues, you've already discussed a little bit the ins and outs, but how do you encapsulate that for the Blues right now?
Well, look, the Cubs had a couple of delistings and retirements already. They've got a few players now that are really waiting to sort of see what happens. Nick Graham out of contract as we sort of stand at the moment. Dylan Buckley out of contract as we stand at the moment. They're going to keep Dale Thomas on for another 12 months. They've locked that one away. We're still waiting on the Bryce Gibbs scenario. And now probably we're still waiting on who else? Is it going to be all the Kennedy basket? When we sat here earlier on this week, I thought he was their number one priority. So it looks like they're going to get the number one priority that they had of the younger guys. Is there anyone else around the mix? At the moment, I'm not hearing any names, but that doesn't mean there's names not there. So we wait and sort of see in that brigade.
Okay, so after 2 years of Brendan Bolton in charge, going into his third year, Terry, do they make, hold or lose ground?
Well, this is still a work in progress, and I must stress that I like the direction. I've got no issue with the direction that they're going. They've got some absolute genuine young talent, but Brendan Bolton will be running the Carlton Crash. When I look at it, round one, they could potentially walk out into the ground or run out into the ground with between 8 to 10 players in their best 22 who are 21 or younger. So to me, no other side virtually in the competition has a starting lineup that is that young. I don't know if you know much about Croatia's Damo, but there are a lot of tantrums involved around Croatia's. I just hope that the Carlton fans are patient enough with these babies because, look, they're going to grow and they need maturity, but I still think that that's a few years away. They're going to hold ground for me at the moment. They're too young to be making absolute bold ground, but I still stress I like the direction.
I like your direction with how you're summarising these list managers' process this year, Terry. You talked about the lead singers needing a number one hit when it was GWS, and now it's the Carlton Crash with tantrums, and you need to be patient with babies. And I like what you said right at the end there. They're going to hold ground, but you need to have some patience as a Carlton supporter. We've got a lot of Carlton supporters, Terry, who do listen to this program, and they're usually pretty vocal, and they usually tell us what they think. So let's throw it open to them to tell us what it is that they make of your assessment. They've been realistic, I think, for a number of years now, Terry. They know what is happening here, and even just hearing you say that round one next year, the way you potentially see it, there could be 8 to 10 of the 22 at age 21 or younger. That's quite extraordinary, given already they've been through a process of 2 years of this doing.
Yeah, but I think what you sort of say, Brendan Bolton Mark 1, it was get enough senior boys in, teach them my way of working, and then the back half of that year start to introduce the kids.
Yep.
Mark 2, and that's why they didn't make ground this year, introduce more and more of the kids into the lineup. I suggest with likes of McKay and those sort of guys that that's still going to be the process next year. So some of those blokes have played less than 12 months. Just takes time.
Yeah. All right, the Carlton Crash. That's Terry's take on the Carlton Football Club, and you need to be patient with those babies, but they will hold ground. So, again, there's going to be some high points and, again, some low points for the Blues, according to Terry Wallace in 2018. But tell us if you have an opinion that varies greatly from Terry's, and you can do that on the Direct Connect open line, 1300 23 55 48. Give us a call on that line, and if you are moving, make your next move easy with Direct Connect. Visit directconnect.com.au. It's 1300 23 55 48. You're listening to The Late Trade for Chemist Warehouse. Train hard, live large with INC Sports Nutrition. Coming to you via the AFL.com.au platform. Terry Wallace, Damien Barrett with you for the late trade for AEG Power Tools. Make your mark with over 40 trade quality power tools available at Bunnings Warehouse. We're with you until 5 o'clock. Jack Heverin takes over after that, all the way through until 6 o'clock Melbourne time with the late wrap. We're taking direct connect open line calls to give us their opinions on Terry Wallace's list management of the Carlton Footy Club. The direct connect open line 1300 23 55 48. Make your next move easy with Direct Connect, directconnect.com.au. Steve's called in from Carlton itself, wants to chat about free agents. Fire away, Steve.
Hi, guys. How you going?
Well, mate.
I completely concur with what Plow's views are on the Carlton Footy Club. My biggest concern, however, is that now we've missed out on Sard, we've missed out on Smith, we've missed out on Rockcliffe, and I think the Carlton Football Club has completely lost its pulling power, and I think it's lost the plot, to be honest, because if you look at over the last couple of years, the players that we've pulled in through free agency or restricted free agents, you're talking about players such as Thomas, Jacks, Wiley, Wright, Gorringe, Lamb, Sumner, Plowman, Phillips, Palmer, Kerridge and Smets. And I just think the fact that these other players have nominated Essendon, it says a lot to me about Stephen Trigg, the president perhaps, and the fact that they even appointed Kernahan and Judd to go and speak to Rockcliffe is, in my opinion, just a thing of the past. And I just think the club's lost the plot completely.
It's a pretty harsh assessment, but look, what happens at times is the players, and you talk about some of those guys who are coming from clubs where they're looking for automatic success. When I have a look at it, just say Essendon in comparison to Carlton, the maturity of the Essendon group is far outweighs the maturity of the Carlton group. Let's go Tommy Rockcliffe. Tommy Rockcliffe comes from an unsuccessful background. If he wants instantaneous success, he wants to play in a side that's going to win more games than what they're going to lose, that's not Carlton, right? That is Port Adelaide, where he chose to go. That doesn't mean that Carlton won't be okay in 4 or 5 years, 2, 3 years' time, but it just takes longer than what people believe it takes. Some of those other players you're talking about were periphery players in the point of view, but I think at the moment that Carlton have sort of said, we're going to mostly grab younger players and we're not going to waste high-end draft picks or big money on blokes who are 26 plus years of age. We will get 21, 22-year-olds around that sort of mark, 20 to 22-year-olds, and be prepared to pay for them, but we're not prepared to pay for 26-year-olds because they won't be here when we're eventually going to be, back to our absolute best again. So I think that that's a reasonable theory to be working on.
Harsh words there, Steve. You're entitled to those opinions. Terry doesn't quite see it that way, but again, we'll know more, won't we, Terry, once they emerge out of this trade period, and we'll see if Steve's justified in thinking they've...
Well, they've brought in some... I mean, I know most of them are from GWS, and people, might poo-hoo that, but Plowman's going to be a good player for them, I think. Marchbank, I'm very, very comfortable with the way that he's coming on. So there's a couple of blokes that they've brought in that have been good. I mean, they brought Wright in from Adelaide for next to nothing, and straight away, I mean, he's been a very, very serviceable player. So, yeah, there have been some misses. I have no doubt that that's the case. And in fairness to the group that are in there now, some of the misses that were mentioned by Steve were a past generation ago. It was the group that were in there before Brendan Bolton and Stephen Silvani were in charge.
Steve, thanks for your call. Let's stay with Carlton being the topic. We'll go across to WA to continue it with Liam. Hi, Liam.
Hey, boys. You sort of just answered it with that previous question, so I was just wanting to know why Carlton isn't a destination. Why pull up these names and Carlton are a possibility, but then they pull out last minute. And why? Look, like you said, we have a good future coming. We're like, the boys, and you pretty much answered it. So
yeah, well, I'll say when when Doherty is 27 years of age, and Petreski-Seaton, therefore, will be 23, and Silvani will be 23, and Kerno will be 24, and McKay will be 23, and Pickett will be 25, I think you will be a destination club. But there are times and periods in your development where you are, and there are periods in your development where you aren't. And at the moment, I think you're still a reasonable destination for a very young player, but not for a more senior, matured player.
Thanks for your call, Liam. Similarly themed to this point of the talkback on the Direct Connect open line, Terry, 1300 23 55 48. We'll stay with that line. We'll come back to Melbourne. Go to Ross. Hi, Ross.
Hey, how you going?
Good, mate.
Hey, Ross.
Oh, geez, Carlton fans are hurting at the moment, aren't they?
In what way, Ross? I think the direction's quite sound and quite good for the football club.
It is, isn't it? I don't know why everybody's getting on such a downer about it. We've got a lot of good youngsters coming through. The club was, from the outset, said that we're going to rebuild, that it was going to be a reset. The fans should know that. We all know that. Since then, we've picked up a lot of good youngsters.
Yeah, five rising stars this year.
Five rising stars this year. I think that the club's going in the right direction. I think a lot of people have been a bit hard on it, but if we can get Kennedy and try to keep our number 3 pick,
which they'll do,
that's another couple of youngsters that is going to add to the mix. So I think things are looking up for the Blues.
Well,
it's disappointing, but I think it's not as bad as what supporters are carrying on about.
Yeah, well, as I sort of said when I did my make, hold or lose ground, I sort of stressed at that stage that it's a work in progress and I like the direction. So there's been a long time for the Carlton Football Club where I hadn't liked the direction at all where the club was going, but certainly now I think that the direction is no issue in my mind at all. You got to have a plan. You got to have a plan, and then try to stick and follow your plan.
Can't expect instant success. I think it was right what you said that we've got the players there that in a few years' time that we will be a destination club when they reach 24, 25. And, I think, there's no need to hit the panic buttons at Carlton just yet.
Yeah, Ross, I mean, you might not like the Crash little suggestion there, but what I was basically sort of saying is I think you would almost run out in round 1 as the younger side in the competition. So it is just hard in such a ruthless competition to be playing young kids and expect to be just absolutely driving your way up the AFL ladder. It just takes time.
Ross, thanks for your call. Terry, let's go for a break. And as we do, we know that Trade Radio, there's more of it in 2017 than ever.